Government figures indicate that Americans are now saving again after years of having a negative savings rate. But our next guest says don't believe it. Laurence Kotlikoff is with us now. He's a professor of economics at Boston University. He's joining us on the phone from Santiago, Chile. Thanks, Larry, as always, for joining us. So I've seen stats that say we are saving between 6 and 9% as a nation, but you say don't believe it.
Right. Those numbers are looking at the personal saving rate, which is not a well-defined economic concept. It's not a measure of anything really except our language. If we label certain things one way, we'll get a personal saving rate. If we use different words to label, for example, the saving we do through Social Security, we'll have a much higher personal saving rate. So it's really up for grabs. The national saving rate is a well-defined measure. It's based on fundamentals, on physical concepts, including net output and consumption. Those are physical concepts. And if you look at the ratio of these things, you find out that the national saving rate is actually negative right now. Last year's national saving rate was minus 2%.
Minus 2%.
Yeah.
Versus what we're reading as 6%. But you're going back to the 60s. I mean, we were saving at that point, what, 12, 14%?
Yeah, in 1965, we were up at 14%. We've gradually come down to negative 2%. It's quite an achievement.
So is the U.S. possibly the only developed country that has a negative savings rate, or are there others?
My guess is we're the only country with this kind of a record.
And what does it mean for us, Larry, as an economist? I mean, just how scary is it?
Well, countries that don't save end up as the poor kid on the block. They don't have the wherewithal to invest in their own country. That's why so much capital is coming in from China and other places around the world into the U.S. We're importing capital, and that's why we are showing a trade deficit, and that's why we have a current account deficit. So it's really going back to our saving behavior.
Larry, what about this idea that when Americans spend, it's good for the economy? It's 2/3 of GDP. We talk a lot about the paradox of thrift. If people save too much, it puts the brakes on the economic engine. So where is the fine line? I mean, where do we belong?
Well, countries don't need to spend their way into the future, just like households, don't have to. Households try and spend, and certainly spend more than they make, they got a problem. So we've had countries around the world, in Japan in the 70s was saving a lot and growing very well. China today is saving a huge amount and growing very well. You don't need to spend in order to grow. That's a fallacy coming from Keynesian economics, which is really pretty outdated from the perspective of most macroeconomists.
So is China then, you're saying, more the model that we should be following?
Yeah, we should get our institutions in order and then make sure we have the right saving. The reason we're saving so little is that we're taking from young savers and giving to old spenders decade after decade. That's the reason that our national saving rate has gone down the tubes. It's this transfer from people who've got many years to go and have a low propensity to consume to people that are getting close to the end and have a very high propensity to consume. That's older people. And we're feeding them these transfer payments in the form that they have to spend it to a large extent. We're giving the elderly a lot of health care, which is registered as consumption in our national accounts, and properly so. So, the issue about the paradox of thrift is not really so much about whether you consume or invest. It's the fact that if everybody gets nervous about the future and just sits on their hands and they decide not to spend, people are uncertain, and then they don't know when to produce, and therefore they don't hire people. That's the thrift problem.
Larry,
yep.
We thank you. Laurence Kotlikoff there talking about saddling our kids with debt, certainly a concerning story.